name is Ed Steckley, and I'm a freelance illustrator living in New York City. I'm here to showcase my workflow using the Wacom Cintiq Pro 24. As it turns out, I just got a call for a quick turnaround illustration job from the people at NBC. I'm going to be doing a series of drawings and sketches to be shown during a sketch on this week's episode of SNL. It's pretty cool. The only thing is, it's now Friday night at 6 o'clock, and I have until the morning to knock out 17 drawings based on the movie Cars, which I have not seen. So I'm just gonna film the process. I've got the script in my hand, but I had never seen this movie before, so I had to watch it to familiarize myself with these characters. Much like drawing a caricature, the more familiar you are with the subject, the better the outcome will be. Looking up still images on the internet is great, but still images only offer so much information. Seeing the subject in action gives you the whole picture to absorb, so you can more accurately draw your impression of the subject, rather than just copy what you see. You'll never get the feel for a subject from still images. It doesn't matter if you're drawing a human for a caricature job or something animated like this. So whenever I start anything, I do my due diligence, and in this case, I get to watch a movie. It's not too bad. For this job, I'm using the Wacom Cintiq Pro 24 connected to the FlexArm stand. The Cintiq is plugged into an iMac, and I'm drawing in Photoshop. What I'm doing now is a light sketch on a low opacity layer I've created named Blue. This is just where I rough in shapes, try a few things, experiment a bit, do some sketching. Once I get these light sketches to a point I'm comfortable with, I'll start to tighten things up. I'll create another slightly higher opacity layer over the blue layer and do another sketch layer that's just a little bit tighter, but still allowing myself to be loose and sketchy. I'm always paying attention to how I feel about the characters, not just the external relationships between features. I want to make sure that everything that I experience during the movie comes through in the drawing. In this case, I'm not trying to draw so much on model. This particular job calls for them to be very sketchy and loose. But still, I have to make the characters feel like they do in the movie, if for nothing else to help sell the overall gag. Now I'm just kind of playing around with some brushes, seeing what sort of line jumps out at me. Now that I'm familiar with the characters in this world, I'm starting to have fun with it. This really is a fun job. Even though the deadline is tight and I'll be drawing all night, I really don't feel it that much since it's really enjoyable. Now I've added a layer for color, and I'm just lightly using the watercolor wash brush to imply whatever color I think would work. Adding some rust spots and this and that, and I'm trying to keep it as loose as I possibly can. It's right about here that I start to really get warmed up and dig into the process. It's easy to lose track of time at this point. For this particular job, in order to keep it loose, I never zoom in closer than this. I don't want to start nitpicking and wasting time. These have to look like advertising agency storyboard comps, which are fast and loose. As it turns out, I do a lot of ad work, so I was really comfortable with that direction, although it's really hard to reel it in this case. My instinct is to get really tight and make things super shiny and pretty, but the client wants loose and fun, so it's my job to adhere to that. Now just more Photoshop coloring, touching up again and trying to keep everything as loose as possible, which in this case was really nice because I have 17 of these to do in only a few hours. Even though it's late and it's a long night, I'm having fun, and that's crucial. Yeah, it's a job, but when you're hired to draw funny, you have to have fun with it. Otherwise, the humor won't translate into the art. I've always been fascinated with the psychological aspects of drawing and illustration. It's one thing to be able to use the tools and create an impressive piece of art, but the mindset of the person creating it absolutely is just as important. If someone isn't familiar with the subject, or if someone doesn't like what they're doing, it absolutely translates into the final product. So if I have a day where I don't feel that great, or simply I'm not into it, I have to get myself into that mode. Otherwise, things just don't work out. It's now morning, and here's the final product. 17 drawings to be used for laughs during a sketch on tonight's SNL. I'm kind of nervous to see the reaction when it airs live. Well, the sun is out. I'm beat. And the 17 drawings to air in about 5 hours are out the door, in the can, ready to go. I'm gonna get some sleep.
Racing? You bet I can still win the Piston Cup.
Amazing! Next.
Back off, jack off. Back off, jackass. I wasn't looking at your wife.
Nailed it! Perfect, moving on.
Return to racing? You bet I can still win the Piston Cup.
Amazing! Next.
Back off, jack off. Back off, jackass.
Love it.
Calm down.
He's my best friend, Lightning.
Thanks, Mater. You're mine too.
That's why I was so upset when I heard you was calling me an arm. Woo-wee, you did it, Lightning. You done won the Piston Cup.
Haha. Yeah. Ka-chow.
Hey, Lightning, what are you doing? That's my sister, buddy.
Not tonight, Mater.
Hey, come on, Lightning. Why her?
Power.
Hello and welcome to NCS Fest. My name is Joe Wos. I am a cartoonist. I am the creator of the syndicated feature Maze Tunes, which is seen worldwide. I am also the illustrator on a line of best-selling Maze books with cartoon illustrations throughout. And I am the host of Cartoon Academy, which appears on PBS affiliates throughout the nation. I'm really delighted to be here with two of my favorite cartoonists, Jason Chatfield and Ed Steckley. And also, I'm delighted to really be here to demonstrate and celebrate the Wacom Cintiq tablet. Just honestly, sincerely, it's one of my favorite things to use, and it really is a product that I found to be transformative for me. You know, and that's the word I like to use about the Cintiqs, is transformative. You know, there's a moment in every artist's career in which they find a tool that transforms their work. For some, it's a brush pen, or a particular kind of pencil, or fountain pen nib. For every artist, it's something different. For me, it really was the Wacom line of products, for a lot of reasons. When I first got a Wacom, it was because I was just going to use it to color. I was a diehard traditionalist that pen and paper was it. That was all I was going to do, and but I hated coloring. If I use markers, I smudge. If I use watercolors, I smudge. I'm left-handed, so I would just smudge everything terribly. So I got the Wacom because I thought, oh, this is much cleaner, much easier. I can use the fill tool, and I really fell in love with it instantly. And it wasn't long before I decided to abandon the process of drawing by hand, scanning it in, cleaning it up, and just all this sort of process I was doing, and just decided, well, this is ridiculous. I'm just going to draw right on the tablet, and that's the process I use now. And I'm going to walk you through a little bit of that process now. But I want to show you my tablet that I use. We'll start there. There it is. This is a 22-inch Wacom Cintiq. A couple things you notice: I don't have any of the bells or whistles, gears, knobs, rings, or doodads on the side here. And I love it because I'm left-handed, as I said. And every time I would draw, I was hitting those knobs, gears, and doodads on the side. So what I did instead, I love this because it's just bare bones, is I actually invested in a Screen Deck, which is this thing right here. And this is just an LED box with buttons, and each button has a little image on it, then connects to a specific action. So I can do all my cut and paste and lasso tool and color and just everything I need. I just have right here. So that makes it a lot easier for me. There we go. Back to the tablet. So I'm going to show you a little bit of the process I use. Excuse me. My nib that I use is a felt tip. It's pretty worn. I'm about due for a replacement there. I replace it about once a month, I think. I have a pretty heavy hand, so I do pressure. But that felt tip does give it just a little bit of tooth, so that it feels a bit more like drawing on paper. There we go. I'm going to do this picture-in-picture because I want you to be able to see how I work on the tablet, but also how I work within Photoshop itself here. I do use Photoshop. You can use anything, of course, that you like. That just happens to be what I like. And generally speaking, I work in layers. And usually it's 3 layers. So my first layer is where I'm putting my line art. So that's where all my line art is going to go. And then what I do is I'll copy that layer. And I'll paste that layer, and that'll be my color layer. And then my third layer, the third layer is just my shading. That's where I put all the shadows and such. So those are the 3 layers I like to use. Just drawing a random little character here for us to work with. I don't really know what this is. We're going to find out together. Seems appropriate for an October event, just some random little monster here. The drawing process doesn't change that much for me, whether it's I'm drawing by, with a felt tip marker or I'm drawing on my tablet. That drawing process stays pretty much the same for me. The only difference is I have sort of gotten in the habit of making sure my lines are closed off. Because I know when I color it, that's going to make it that much easier and quicker to use that fill tool when the time comes. So I did get in the habit of just keeping my lines pretty closed. I slip up sometimes, but I have no idea what I'm doing right now, so we're going to see this together, how it turns out. And you can actually, you may even pick it up on the microphone. You can hear that sort of, that texture of that felt tip hitting the glass. And it's, you know, the glass is nice. It's not super smooth like some tablets you use where it just sort of slides. This has a little bit of a grip to it when you use the felt tip. I don't know what this is, but I like it. I like drawing monsters because I always tell my students there's no wrong way to draw a monster because it can look like whatever you want it to look like. All right, so there we go. So that's my first sort of layer that I would create. So what I would do is then I'd duplicate that layer, and I'll go back here to this base layer. This base becomes my my color layer. Gotta make sure I hit that anti-alias. And then that's why I'll just sort of take the bucket tool and just fill in some of the areas that I can. You know, we're gonna pick some colors here. Monsters, you can't go wrong with green. Look at that. So again, I'm double checking, make sure my lines are closed off. Looks pretty good. Go a little bit darker on that one there. Let's see here. I apologize for the silence. I'm not used to, when I'm drawing, it's just a very solitary process. Normally, I'm just sort of drawing by myself, but you're getting to tune in as I create something live, which I'm sure you've been doing a lot of. You know, I really, you know, I will very often change colors as I go. There'll be something I just don't like or something I think will work better. And coloring, as I said, is my least favorite activity in the whole wide world. I really don't like coloring. But I will say this. Since switching over to Wacom tablet, I've really begun to enjoy it a lot more. It's not as laborsome a process. It moves pretty quickly. You know, as you can see, I just scroll through. I do have favorite colors that I tend to use. I have a sort of favorite palette for my maze work that I use. But, you know, it just flies along pretty quickly now. And a lot of that is because I'm just using a quick fill tool. And then I'll go in and I'll add details as I'm drawing. So once I finish the color, a lot of the detail I'll add, especially in that shading layer. But so I'm just picking, really it's, you know, I just pick a palette I like. Sometimes I'm not real confident about what I like, so I'll change it 3 or 4 times, but that's pretty good. Just pretty random here. All right. Yeah, we'll go yellow in the eyes. So that's really quickly just sort of my monster character that I would create. And then I switch over and I add another layer. Oh, let me add one more little splash there. I add another layer and I drop the opacity down to about 47%. I select the color that's sort of my base color, and then that's where I sort of will lay in all the shadows. You know, and I'll see occasionally, I made a little mistake here or there that I'll fill in, but then go back in. So I'm just figuring out where my shadows are going to be. And I'm just sort of blocking that out. All right, so I start with that base, and then I'll do a quick fill on those. Pick out another section. And you can see it's a pretty speedy process that I can do with this tablet. Doing this by hand, coloring everything in, using watercolors or markers, it's going to take me a lot longer. It's going to look, I love the people who do that work. I think it looks amazing and beautiful. It's just not for me to. I'm not that patient and I'm not that skilled. So this is just great for me because I can speed along and have a character done in just, a couple minutes. And then I flatten that layer. And then as I tell all my students, sign your name, take pride in your work. There is our little monster character. That's basically how I work. That's my process. Everybody works a little bit differently. For me, this has been just the Wacom has been a real lifesaver. It has sped up my creative process probably, oh my goodness, 3 to 10 times faster, depending on the project. It has given me, literally given me the career that I have. Because without this, I would not have gotten into syndication. I probably would not have gone into books. It does speed up my process that much and has really added a joy to coloring my work that I didn't have before, that I preferred black and white. Now I look at the work that's in color and I really just like it a lot more. So that's my story. That's why I love the Wacom tablets. I hope you get a chance to try one out. If you don't have one, you're going to get a chance to win one through our contest. So I hope you do that. If you don't win the contest, I hope you'll still check them out. They're a great product. And really, as I said at the beginning, absolutely transformative. Thanks very much for tuning in. My name again is Joe Wos. Have a great day. Thanks, everybody.
Hello, my name is Jason Chatfield, and I've been a Wacom ambassador for nearly 15 years. I've been using Wacom products for about 18 years. This is Morris. He sits at my feet and farts loudly to remind me that he's there. He's been sitting at my feet while I draw and use Wacom products for some time. I've used everything from a Graphire 2 to an Intuos to a Cintiq to a Cintiq Pro to a Mobile Studio Pro to a Wacom One. I've used pretty much everything that Wacom has brought out because I really love Wacom technology, and there's a very specific reason. It's because when Wacom ask for feedback from artists about what they might like to introduce into their next range of features for the next drawing tablet, they actually build into the next design the feedback that they get from their artists that they got feedback from. Hi. Yes. Most technologies try to get you to work around their own infrastructure and their own sort of ecosystem, whereas Wacom actually build theirs around the artists and their habits. So to that end, my, I guess, for lack of a better word, philosophy or ethos is to always stay malleable, always be flexible with your workflow, always try something new, be able to take yourself out of your studio once in a while with the dog, and stretch yourself creatively, because that's what Wacom has always sort of done. They've always sort of stretched themselves creatively, and I have an enormous amount of admiration for that. Not a lot of companies have that kind of ability. So what I'd like to share with you today is not just another tutorial. I've done many Wacom tutorials, and if you just jump on YouTube and look for Jason Chatfield Wacom, you'll see endless tutorials of me trying out Wacom products and doing reviews and unboxing videos, which are very popular on the internet, and many other things. But hi, yes, I get it. I know. It's amazing. Isn't it great? Anyway, sorry. The thing that I'd really like to share is something very special that I did recently. I'm on money. Basically, I designed a design for the Australian dollar coin. The Royal Australian Mint decided to honour Ginger Megs, the comic strip that I produce, for the 100th anniversary of the strip's creation by producing a series of dollar coins. And I was excited and not entirely surprised to discover that the Royal Australian Mint used Wacom Cintiqs to design the coins at the Mint. And what was interesting was when we went through the design process that took many, many months, was that at my end, I was using a Wacom Cintiq as well. So we were working in lots of different software technologies and products and layers and rendering technologies, but ultimately we were both sitting at a desk using a Wacom product on the other end of the earth, me in New York and them in Canberra, the capital of Australia. So this is a video that Wacom produced in conjunction with the Royal Australian Mint. It was Zoe Lumley produced this video alongside Simon Marshall for Wacom Australasia, and it has been one of the great privileges of my career to be able to design not only a series of postage stamps for Australia Post and a book for Penguin Random House, but the ultimate thing is putting your cartoon character on the Australian dollar coin. That it was so surreal, and as you'll see, the process has been really fascinating. So I hope you enjoy this. Thank you for watching this. I hope you learned a lot from Ed and from Joe. My dog just farted on my leg, so I'm gonna roll the clip and then take my dog out for a walk. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoy. See you later. Thanks for that, buddy. Oh, I know, it's great.
I'm Jason Chatfield, and I'm the cartoonist for Ginger Megs and a Wacom ambassador. And to celebrate Ginger's 100th birthday, the Royal Australian Mint are collaborating with Wacom and myself to create a commemorative coin. Ginger Megs is Australia's favourite boy. He's been around for 100 years. He was created in 1921 by Jimmy Banks. And he's a quintessential Aussie larrikin. It's one of these iconic characters that just never get old. I was a 23-year-old cartoonist in Perth, and my predecessor James Kemsley tapped me on the shoulder and asked me if I would take over the strip. I was already a big fan of Ginger Megs, so I was incredibly intimidated to sort of carry on such a big legacy. And he put my name forward to the Banks family, who said yes. Using a Wacom product to produce the strip, I initially had some hesitation about digital not looking the same as hand-drawn artwork. And of course the strip was produced in the 1920s using ink and brush, but now that I know that it exists and what it can do, there's no way that I could go back to the way I was working before. The writing of a comic strip is a very strange and elusive sort of process. The ideas come to you at the strangest moments, and you have to be ready to write them down and scribble them out and then sit down and work out what those ideas look like. Designing the coin on this Cintiq was really interesting because I was able to sort of really explore and figure out the design in a way that I could see everything right in front of me. It was a very natural process of designing something that would look great up close and also look great on a tiny little coin. It's honestly a dream job to be able to do a comic strip. I'm kind of what happens when a giant fan of something gets to then be in charge of creating something. And I draw on my own childhood in Australia to sort of write the strip. And I do get a bit nostalgic while I'm drawing it and writing it and thinking about things that I did when I grew up. And I'm excited to see where things go in the next 10 or 100 years.
What was that?